Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Thursday, 8th August 2024, and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. Fraud led to the U.S. halting a migrant program that saw thousands of Cubans, Haitians, Venezuelans enter the United States. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. The Biden administration in the United States is halting a program that has already flown nearly 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela into the United States due to allegations of rampant fraud, the New York Post has learned. The New York Post politics reporter Josh Christensen shares this story.
The administration is halting a program that has already flown nearly 500,000 migrants into the U.S. from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, citing allegations of widespread fraud in its sponsor vetting. The Department of Homeland Security stopped the travel authorizations mid-month in July for a program that uses humanitarian parole to allow up to 30,000 migrants from each of the four nations into the U.S. per month. Out of an abundance of caution, DHS has temporarily paused the issuance of advanced travel authorizations for new beneficiaries while it undertakes a review of supporter applications, a spokesperson for the agency told the Post. The news was first reported by Fox News, based on an internal report put out by the Federation for American Immigration Reform. That report found that there was potentially massive fraud occurring among thousands of sponsors involved in the humanitarian parole program, many of whom had listed fake Social Security numbers, false phone numbers, deceased persons, and repeated home addresses and IP addresses for a host of different migrants who were applying for the program. The review had been conducted by a sub-agency of DHS, the Citizenship and Immigration Services, and found that many applications listed the same physical address. At least 100 were listed on 19,000 different forms, and many had taken use of the same IP address. One of those IP addresses was located in Tijuana, Mexico, and used more than 1,000 times, according to the FAIR internal documents. The same exact answers were plugged into the same form on hundreds of applications. In some instances, the same answer was used by over 10,000 applicants, the report shows. The humanitarian parole program first began in October 2022 for Venezuelans and opened up to the three other nations just a few months later in January 2023. Since then, more than 400,000 have entered the U.S. via parole, and more than likely, most of them will be remaining, according to former ICE Director Tom Homan, who spoke with the Post last month. House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Mark Green, in a Friday statement, called for the immediate termination of the humanitarian parole program, saying that the admission by the Biden-Harris administration vindicates every warning that his committee has ever issued about the unlawfulness of the, what he called, mass parole program. This is exactly what happens when you create an unlawful mass parole program, he said, in order to spare your administration the political embarrassment and bad optics of overrun borders.
A year fraught with crises and difficulties is how the Minister of Foreign Affairs and CARICOM Affairs of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Emery Brown, described the tenure of Trinidad and Tobago-born Dennis Francis at the United Nations General Assembly. More in this TTT News item.
President of the United Nations General Assembly, Dennis Francis, was honored during a ceremony at Queen's Hall on Tuesday. Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Dr. Emery Brown, said the UNGA president faced a difficult year.
Every word that one utters, every word that one decides not to utter, and every action that one may decide not to do, are ambassadors The globe's president, this distinguished gentleman, has done exceedingly well, and his tenure has been an outstanding success.
Dr. Brown noted there were many crises and issues during the period.
Friends, we live in a world in which there's never been such intense attention and scrutiny and exposure and interrogation. That has been the task of His Excellency.
Meanwhile, President Francis also described the weight of his assignment.
It is unarguably the most challenging assignment I have had in my long career of public service. There is no doubt that we are in a moment of great difficulty and uncertainty in the world.
President Francis is expected to hold discussions with Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley before he leaves the country on Thursday. Terry Ann Brown Campbell, TTT News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick,
in association with our friends at
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
In CNC3's Business Watch, Republic Financial Holdings and National Flour Mills announced profitable periods. However, the results are not so positive for the National Enterprise Limited, which is looking on the bright side after significant third-quarter loss. CNC3's Peter Christopher reports.
Republic Financial Holdings Limited has recorded a profit of $1.5 billion for the 9-month period ended June 30th, 2024. Chairman Vincent Pereira says this represents an increase in profits after tax of $213 million or 17% over the $1.3 billion reported for the same period of the last financial year. In addition to reporting the third quarter results, Pereira also spoke on the work being done by the group to provide recovery relief in various countries affected by Hurricane Beryl. State-owned National Flour Mills has announced an after-tax profit of $20.5 million for the first half of 2024, a 29% increase over the same period in 2023. Chairman Nigel Romano notes that while overall volumes increased by more than 5% year-on-year, revenue declined by 12%, driven by significant decreases in the prices of grain, which the company passed on to customers. Romano was also pleased to report that NFM's 2-kilogram packaging line was installed and commissioned during the period. Despite NFM's performance, National Enterprises Limited has reported a net loss after tax of $140.8 million for the 9-month period ended June 30th, 2024. This contrasts with the net profit of $445.2 million seen in 2023. NEL owns shares in several state enterprises including NFM, Tringen, NGC, TSCT, PanWest, and NEL Power Holdings Limited. Chairman Ingrid Lashley says the loss was due largely to unrealized fair value losses amounting to $774 million in NEL's energy portfolio investee companies. She explains in a challenging yet promising period, NEL saw a decrease in operating profit to $115.1 million from $387.4 million in 2023, primarily influenced by a 70% decline in dividend income. However, Lashley notes investment income saw a 40% increase to $10.4 million. Lashley says NEL is cautiously optimistic about the medium-term prospects, particularly with the ongoing efforts by upstreamers and the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago to stabilize the local gas supply.
Despite making some progress to attain the Sustainable Development Goals, Barbados still has some way to go and should not become complacent. That assessment from Minister in the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Investment, Senator Chad Blackman. He was speaking at the opening of the National Consultation on the Identification of Priority Sustainable Goals for Barbados. The two-day session is jointly hosted by the Economic Affairs and Investment Division and the United Nations Population Fund.
We have to constantly reevaluate where we are and use those successes as stepping stones for the advancement. And similarly, in this exercise of achieving the SDGs and the 2030 agenda, as I said, bearing in mind that whilst we've achieved a significant set of those goals and targets, we're just 6 years away. And therefore, we have to now redouble or perhaps triple our efforts in ensuring that we can treat to this. So therefore, complacency among stakeholders has to stop. And I mean this at the global level, and of course at the local level. And using now these figures that I've outlined so far as a motivation and a roadmap in order for us to treat to how we close that gap.
The SDGs project coordinator in the SDG unit in the Prime Minister's office, Crystal Yearwood, has provided the results of the voluntary National Review report.
Based on the reports of the VNR, we also had a national SDG mapping report and the rapid integrated assessment. We saw that 45.3% of our targets have been met or will be met by 2030 because there is substantial progress. And that's important because globally only 15% of targets are on track. And so for us as a small island developing state to be doing so well is really commendable. However, as Senator Blackman indicated, we must not become complacent, and we still have significant work to be done to achieve the rest of the goals. As we see here, we have about 54% showing fair progress, but our need of substantial implementation in order to accelerate progress.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's a service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.